What really makes no sense? Eric of Malnibone, the main character in a sword and sorcery series of short stories that hugely influenced D&D, written by Michael Moorcock, was something like that. He lived in a fantasy world where there was clearly magic and super powerful entities, but he didn't believe that any of them was a creator being in the sense that the Abrahamic God was, which meant he had about as much existential uncertainty as atheists and agnostics here on Earth. In fact, one of his short stories is about his quest for a magical MacGuffin that could answer his questions about the non-existence of a creator being. In every case that I have ever seen playing D&D, there is not a single person who doesn't know that the gods are gods. It's like with the president, prime minister / leader / etc. of your country. You can be like, I didn't vote for you, I'm not gonna follow you, I'm not going to your inauguration, and I don't believe the things you represent are important, but you can't legitimately believe he's not actually the president, as if he somehow stole the election or something. That's just blatantly denying the facts that are right in front of you. Only crazy people do that. I mean, not really. There's afterlives, and those beings are there as they are in life. They can prevent your death or straight up bring you back to life. They have power over your soul. They can give you power and boons and take them away. They can hear and respond to prayers. They have domains and control over them, often pertaining to aspects of humanity or reality. Plus, remember D&D is a medieval fantasy RPG. Back then the concept of aliens was a lot more alien to them, pun intended, than the idea of gods. So, no, I don't really think it's possible to be an atheist in D&D. I think it'd be fun to have a character who is atheist and PC of the lack of belief not only can't use magic, but are not affected by magic at all, including healing spells. They'd have to be a fighter though, or maybe an artificer. Everything magic is actually just science and the gods are just different beings like aliens, not all powerful though. I think that's the issue here. The Abrahamic God can will the universe out of existence with a mere thought. The first iteration of the MCU Thor was barely a building buster and called a god. Clearly there's a disparity in the meaning of the word. Not sure, I'm not super up to date on D&D and I only know high school levels of Greek gods as it had nothing to do with my major. I know Greek gods. Titans are kind of weak whereas Uranus and Gaia are more similar to monotheistic strength gods. I was more curious as to what God means to people colloquially. I don't hold with paddling with the occult, said Granny firmly. Once you start paddling with the occult you start believing in spirits, and when you start believing in spirits you start believing in demons, and then before you know where you are you're believing in gods, and then you're in trouble. But all them things exist, said Nanny Yogg. That's no call to go around believing in them. It only encourages Terry Pratchett, lords and ladies. I think the actual reason for this is just poorly defined definitions of what entry level actually means. Like, when you hear entry level, you think entry into the workforce. By contrast, many companies use entry level to mean entry into our company, and that company doesn't hire people who are new to the workforce. I'd recommend only doing that for a job you are neutral on and don't care that much about. Many of the systems will just weed it out like you said. Some of the hiring managers will just weed it out also. If you aren't willing to spend 10 minutes typing it out, it may be construed as being lazy. Some hiring managers don't care at all, of course. The thing is, many hiring managers have stacks of applications and they develop ways to quickly whittle the stack down before even truly reading the applications. The quickest way to get insta-removed is to not follow the basic formatting requirements. The only headhunters that are worth talking to are the ones that know what you do and how much you're paid already. They pretty much never come from Indeed or Monster, Those folks are just HR folks that spam everyone with the semi-relevant job title. I'm upper-level management in a company in the solar industry and it's booming. Our entire executive team has a ton of poaching attempts and I've responded to a few just to see what's out there. 90% are garbage offers, but the serious folks know who I am, what I do and the general salary range. Their offers have almost been sweet enough to jump ship. TLDR, if it's obvious they haven't done their homework on you, they are recruiters, not headhunters. I worked in it after college doing more of the automation, operations side of the business. It's definitely a numbers game. Companies on multiple occasions would have perfectly viable candidates in their database and were at least aware of their names and had their resumes, but were incapable of sorting through the volume of resumes to find the perfect applicant had already applied. My boss on multiple occasions would ask what was wrong with so-and-so. Knowing that they hadn't been hired for the position per the company's report, the company would look at them again and realize, oh, we should actually hire them. Of course, we got no fee for when that happened as we didn't refer them, but I found it pretty depressing that it happened multiple times, and it highlighted why companies lean on recruiters sometimes. Accurate, a lot of recruiters suck. It's a numbers game. It all comes down to fit and timing, which leaves a pretty small window, and oftentimes you have to speak with dozens if not hundreds to find that fit, and maybe it's not the right timing, but when it works, you get a free service and hopefully a much better job. It's just so easy to rip on recruiters, and pat yourself on the back when it works out with the help of one. All in all, I get the complaints lol. Such an absurd but necessary industry. Before the pandemic, my first response to headhunters was to let them know that I have been able to work remotely since the very beginning, so they have to match that and other things before I will even consider thinking about the positions. It's like, why the fuck would I move to bumfuck nowhere for some random company? I really don't understand some of the people who are trained to find candidates. I make it a point to interview at least once a year if at all possible, just to see what's out there, and as I've worked my way up in the pay range, I've made it a point to start off by telling headhunters and interviewers that my salary expectation would be $30 plus benefits. If they're not competitive with that pay range, then I don't want to work with them, and it's better that we save each other time. Plus, recruiters are honestly freaking stupid. I'm sure there's some smart ones, but the ones I've run into take a look at my LinkedIn and say, oh hey, yeah, you work for this multi-million-dollar company as a systems administrator with 17 years of experience. Well, you're not going to believe the deal I have for you. I'm sure you would love an entry-level help desk position updating computers from Windows 7 to Windows 10 that you would have to move halfway across the country for, that pays $10 an hour. It's a 4-month contract with no guarantee to hire and no benefits. It's not technically enough to live on anywhere in the United States of America, but I'm sure you want to uproot your entire life to take this wonderful opportunity to get your foot in the door in information technology. I just responded with $90K is what I need to make it work, and if you can't do that, I can be contracted in on problems your staff can't fix at $120 an hour, minimum of 8 hours. It was a call center, so who knows what happened there. Probably ended up finding some smart kid out of college who could troubleshoot big issues and moved on after he put his time in getting experience. I make sure pay is discussed in the first interview, and I prefer phone interviews. Few times I wasted time going through 3 interviews before I found out it was 50% of what I need. I remember saying at one, you're looking for someone with Cisco networking experience, 3 years of asterisk telephone system administration experience and Windows Server experience. For all that you pay $40,000 a year. How many qualified candidates do you think there are for this job that are not lying? Call me if you can do $90,000, but you're paying way too little. 3 months later they called me saying they could do $52,000. That was literally the phrase I used, salary range. I didn't just ask what's the pay like. I was polite and professional, but I still got a bullshit answer. I was actually a hiring manager for about a year, so I know interview terms. My point is that I didn't get a straight answer, not how I asked. I shouldn't even have to be asking for a range to begin with. It's a business tactic. It's seen as a faux pas because they'd rather not pay you more than they have to. I do think that when you get a job offer, though, you should be able to negotiate the pay, especially if they didn't inform you on what it was. It's just tough though because the ball is in their court. Generally speaking, more people need jobs than are available, so they get to set the wages. Staffing company recruiter recently called me. After all the details, asked me for my rate, then said, "Oh, okay, your rate is way too high for this job." Then sends me the job detail anyway, with it being 20 per hour below my rate, saying we're trying to negotiate. Just to get me on a video call interview. I mean, why waste both our times, man? In tech, they'll have you do code challenges that take wild amounts of time before they tell you pay. I went through a gamut of 20 hours once, only to find it's half my rate. My current job pays the most I've made and was a 10 minutes phone call. He has my GitHub, LinkedIn, resume. I'd have taken the job despite pay for him respecting my time and the resources we have to research candidates. It depends on the experiences code for. Once we meet you, we'll see how little you will be willing to accept. The challenge these days is finding any job where your boss is actually a decent human being and also understands that having your best interests in mind is also what will lead to their own success. Very rare though. I had a company that wanted me to jump through 6 rounds of applications and they didn't even want to list the pay. I'm pretty sure they were just looking for desperate people willing to take anything or trying to prove that nobody in the country is qualified, and we tried our best. I honestly think this is because they have the okay to pay a huge salary, so they want you to negotiate against yourself. Places these days are so desperate for people. If you're a good fit, they'll most likely pay what you ask for, if it's reasonable for the job and next level, of course. Whenever I'm asked what my salary expectations are, I always reply, "What's the expected range for this role?" Then stay silent. If they answer and it's within my range, I always reply with the range that's pushing my original goal, given I'm a strong candidate with the job posting. If they deflect the answer or push it back on me, then I reply that I've signed a contract that doesn't allow me to disclose this information as they're a potential competitor, and find a new company to interview with. The shit they pull when you interview is easy compared to what you have to go through getting raises or promotions later on. I had an interview recently where the owners needed someone to run the front desk at a gym, physical therapy place, and asked if I was comfortable asking people for money if it was owed. Sometimes people would have co-pays that would add up and need to be collected. I told them I own my own business once, so I know how important it is to keep everyone's lights on. They seemed happy with the answer, and into me as a candidate. When they asked if I had questions, I asked if the pay was negotiable, as I did have this experience. I asked for $2 more than what they were advertising. They quickly ended the interview and went with another candidate. Funny how they wanted me to advocate for them to keep their lights on, but not my own. I thought it would be a good demonstration of my skills if that's what they really wanted, and clearly it was not. I had kind of the opposite experience recently. I knew the pay, so I asked about the job. I asked what the duties are for that position. He just told me to send my resume. Like, dude, I'm not trying to tailor my resume. I want to know if the duties are something that I want to get involved with. Excellent work. They wanted to lowball you. Odds are, based on the resume, you'd get good wages. They didn't want to do that. Sure, it may be culture to ask for the salary on first interview, but they should also publish the salary and not say something like $50K, $150K based on experience. Man, I asked how much a job paid during a first round interview and the guy talked down to me like I had truly offended him by asking what the salary was. I straight up told him that I didn't think it was an inappropriate question at all and that I had not been told anything about the salary from the recruiter. I still got the job, but I never did get along with the guy afterwards. I was asked to interview and they asked me how much I was looking to get. Ended up playing The Price is Right. I finally told them we were too far apart in price and I didn't want to waste their time. 2 weeks later they called me and asked me to interview again. I accepted, but only because I told them it was a waste of their time and they are basically asking for it at this point. You don't deserve any money just for going to college. You get paid for what you can do in exchange. College can increase your skills or the results show your determination, intelligence, etc. But that's besides the point. And who does it benefit? The company. They get a lot more applicants and now the hiring process becomes competitive. Do you think people in HR are just too ignorant? There are benefits and downsides to showing wider ranges. The conclusion is, as can be seen, that the ranges are not shown. We can continue this conversation with you throwing in more benefits and me downplaying them, or me throwing in more disadvantages and you downplaying those, but the result is clear. Companies do show what their course of action is and their people are not ignorant. I guess you're talking to the wrong person, cause apprentices make $50K a year. So $50K no experience, but somebody put in effort and spent the money to go to college and get their degree. Yes, they absolutely deserve $50K to start. And who does it benefit? The company. They get a lot more applicants and now the hiring process becomes competitive. What is the benefit of broadcasting a range of 50 to 200K? How does that help anyone? And then you tell inexperienced applicants that you would pay them $50K. That is surely a good thing. Haha, smile. Just tell people the pay is dependent on the experience. Then talk. Get a good picture and talk about money expectations. It's not like a person from HR could tell how experienced a calling IT applicant is anyways. Just doesn't make much sense. In the Czech Republic, literally none of the jobs list the salary. To find out what they pay, you have to go through the whole interview process, and then you get told the pay if they call to offer you the position. I've applied for jobs that should pay much more than I'm currently on, only to find that it would be a massive pay cut, and I know people who've gone into roles that should pay less, only to find out that they're earning 40 or 50% more than me. So frustrating. Job hunting sucks. I applied for a different department which would be the perfect fit for my skills and education, and my manager approved, and so did the other department manager. HR said no, that I have to remain in my current position for 6 months, so in another month I can apply. Meanwhile, that job is now open to external candidates because no internal candidates applied. Time to apply at their competitors. Lol. I applied for a job and when they got back to me I asked them what the pay was like. They replied with it depends on the experience. I had emailed my resume and that's why they emailed me back, but I still couldn't get an answer. I didn't respond and accepted a job that straight up told me what they would pay me before I had to ask. Worked with a guy a while back that was a flat earther. He would start arguments with coworkers about how their belief systems were ridiculous and how everyone that didn't think like him was a sheep. I had heard that these people existed, but Jesus Christ, edit, lol, god damn it. Now my highest rated comment is about flat earthers. The real irony is that the ancient Egyptians in 4,000 years ago as well as the ancient Greeks after them knew the earth was round. Yet today, despite being able at any moment to physically watch NASA live stream around Earth from space, some Dunningkruger morons say it's flat. Depending on the studio, this was done for cost savings, especially looking at Hanna-Barbera. Almost all of the characters had a collar of some sort, so no one has to reanimate the body when a character is talking, just the head. If you just need a collar, No point in drawing pants, or even a shirt if you are yogi. I refused to have anyone but my husband with me each time, and it caused such a furor. My mom was so pissed when I had my first that I wouldn't let her stay in the room for the delivery. She went home, an 8-hour drive, and I had zero help postpartum as my husband started a new job the day after I had our son. It was a really difficult time.